Hello everyone, today I've got something pretty fun for you. We've got a double helping of ace tankers in the UDES 14-5, the tier 8 Swedish medium tank. So the first one that you're going to be seeing here is with the 90mm gun. This is not the top gun on this vehicle, but it has a little bit better damage per minute than the top gun does. I actually do prefer the 105mm with this tank, but this particular ace was one I got before I had the top gun and also before my crew was 100%. So this battle is Assault on Karelia, and here I'm doing one of my favorite things to do with a snipey medium tank or certain light tanks or tank destroyers at the beginning of the battle from this side. I like to go up on the hill in these bushes, and basically I'll snipe across at the beginning, and then I will move across like once the battle develops a little bit. So the alpha damage of this gun is 240, and it has 192 pens. So it's not the best. It does have some heat rounds, but it doesn't have the alpha to really drop big bombs. So at this point I see that the Cromwell in the middle has died, and I decide it's time to make a move. This tank is not the most agile, but it's also not the most slow. This traverse is not particularly fast, but if you can get going in a straight line, it has a good top speed. It also has this hydro-pneumatic suspension, sort of like on the Swedish tank destroyers, that activates as soon as you're under 10 kilometers per hour. And you can see that as the little target indicator whenever I slow down for a shot. What that does is it allows the tanks to get extra gun depression. Now, this tank does not have the best turret armor and the best armor in general. It's pretty paper. And the hydro-pneumatic suspension takes maybe around half a second to a second to actually be able to allow you to depress your gun. So if you're trying to peek and you're not going slow, or you wait for the transmission to activate, you potentially expose your turret to be shot, which can be pretty annoying. I've had games, at least at the beginning when I was learning how to play this tank, where I would try to poke for shots over ridges, and I would bleed a lot of hit points because people would just shoot me before I could turn the gun down. But in a situation like this, where the hill is sloped nicely, I don't really need the suspension here. You're able to just put in shots, and this gun has pretty good gun handling as long as you're not moving the hull, at least turning it. And this position is, I think it's pretty well known at this point. If you have a tank with any amount of gun depression, or even just a tank that has good view range, you can work this position and get spots for all the tanks behind you. And this IKV 90B in particular, he's in a place where I can pretty easily shoot him, and this hill also enables me to go slow enough that this suspension is active before I even poke, which again lets me get shots at him, and that shot hit the rock. Now you can see on the minimap the 110 is pushing our T-34-85 here. We aim in another shot, get the IKVB down. At this point we're sitting on what appears to be just over 2,000 combined, about 3.5 minutes into this game. At this point I'm thinking, should I push the 110? And we see the Panther II above us. That was a pretty lucky snap on him, but we'll come back to that Panther II later on. Another thing this tank is good at is when you poke, you want to use the rear of your tank first. It's one of those tanks that has a rear-mounted turret. And here I see him cross, and snap on him, put a shot in. I was concerned about him spotting me and returning fire, but apparently that was not the case. I fire a shot blind here, and we'll see if that one hit at the end of the game. Anyway, as I was saying, as this is a rear-turreted tank, it means that when you poke around a corner, at least on flat ground, if you drive with the front of the tank, that means that you'll expose your inner track wheel and your very vulnerable front hull long before your gun ever gets around. So what you can do in situations when there's corners like that is just poke your little rear out, and you expose much less of the tank before the gun is able to fire. T-34-85 crosses and gets punished here. And I'm looking in this spot, trying to find the 90B or potentially hit another shot on the 34-85. He's going to sit over there for a while and take shots at me as I poke, but again, I'm just continuing to try to spot. As you can see on the minimap, the enemy has won the north of the map, and a STA-2 and a Panther are pushing into our base. At this point, I believe our artillery is going to start to complain about the heavies that are sniping on the hill. I'm not really concerned about what my team, how they're complaining. I just want to make sure that there are tanks behind me to spot the vehicles, well, to shoot the vehicles that I'm spotting. They seem to be a little distracted here. I'm concerned about those medium tanks spotting the people on the hill and a tank like the 110 shooting them. So pretty soon I'm going to rotate down to try to get him out. But again, I'm still peeking to check that UDES spot. The spot the IKV 90B was in. But now I'm going to go after this 110. I haven't seen him yet. I believe him to be somewhere on this rock, and there he is. Put a shot on the move into his hole. And here I make a mistake just because I'm in a hurry. I drive around the corner in front of the tank first, but the friendly Sturv does put a shot in, and we kill him with our follow-up shot. Now from here, I know the enemy doesn't have any tanks left in the north, and all they have over here is a Panther 2. So it's the same Panther 2 from earlier. I'm going to try to hunt him down. And here I was looking for a shot, and I was like, okay, I'll just track him. And now I notice I've got a green indicator, so I have a shot on his lower plate here, so I'm going to take that. And he repairs and backs up. Now, one of the things that he does here is he sits in a place where I can see his front hole, but he can't see me, so I'm just going to casually move until I can see the corner. Got a green indicator, meaning high likelihood of a pen, and I'm just going to put 2 shots in him. He fires a shot in frustration, not knowing where I am because he can't see me. And at this point, all the remaining tanks are on the other flank. I'm in a position to flank, so I'm going to drive around close and try to finish out this game. Our Sturv is madly pinging our heavy tanks. In spite of the fact that those guys really just sat back the entire game, I carry here. So there's the finishing shot on the IKV. He spots me, but I'm not really concerned. It's only a UDES and a Hellcat at this point. Now I'm sitting here waiting for the Hellcat to poke. He does, and we punish him. That's something that this tank is very good at with the top tier gun, is if you can anticipate when an enemy is going to poke. You can sit stationary, aim in, wait for them to poke, and punish them with a high damage round. The alpha of the top gun is 50% higher than the alpha of this gun, which means that while this gun is better for DPMing, the other gun is much better if you are only getting a shot once every 10 seconds or so. Now here, the UDES has very thin armor. This is a 90mm gun. It overmatches his armor, so if I hit him, he's penned. We trade shots. I know that my reload is better than his, and I drive forward to finish him off. And that is the game. We can see if we hit that blind shot on the 110. As you can see, we did 3,700 damage here with 2,700 assistance, over 6k combined with a high caliber, 4 kills, 1,400 base experience, which is my best in this tank, and we made 28,000 credits. Now, here is game 2. And in game 2, I do have the top 105mm gun. It has 360 alpha, 217 pen, and a very high velocity APCR round as its standard ammunition. Now, I was not happy when I loaded it on this map. It's Ensk against tier 10s. Ensk is traditionally not a good map for sniping like tanks, but I'm going to use the mobility of this tank to be able to pull off a pretty good ace. It's not as much experience as the last game, spoiler alert, but this is a classic example of how to use the top gun on this tank on a situation where you can't snipe. So at the beginning of this game, I'm sitting on the rails, I'm waiting for a tank to cross. This is what from this side, I like to do this from where the Scorpion G is normally, but this tank doesn't quite have as good view range as some other tanks I have that I like to do this with. Even with coated optics and my now 100% crew, we are not at the 445 meter mark. If I ran food, I would be, but as you can see, I'm running a fire extinguisher. So I've been sitting here for a while, and I'm going to decide to advance at this point. And from here, you can potentially get a crossfire into this lane where the bat shed is. And I spot this AMX 51-120. We put a first shot into him, we roll high, and the reload of this gun is 9.9 seconds, which is right about the time it takes to go unspotted. So I'm going to poke out again, and we're going to take another shot into this 5120. Again, that was a bad poke, potentially. If they had been watching, I would have been shot in the tracks before my gun would have gotten around the corner. But in this case, as I was dark, I was not punished for it. So I'm going to drive back to the first position, where I can stick out at the rear of my tank and continue to look for shots. This is a playstyle that requires some amount of patience, but with the high alpha of this gun, especially for a tier 8 medium tank, you can really stack up the damage quickly. And the Sturv rotates over to look for me, so I'm going to fall back. And the 5120 pokes again, and I punish him for a third time. I believe the Sturv there was setting up his gun, and that's the reason why I didn't get shot there. I was reacting to my sixth sense going off, and I spotted the Sturv about the same time. 120 pokes again, and we punish him for a fourth time. Pretty much every single one of these shots is rolled high. The average damage I should have done is 1440, and we are about 60 points over that. Here I want to hit the front hole of the bat shot. The shot goes a little wide to the right and hits his track, but that's okay. He gets punished, and we get the assistance. Now at this point I see the flank is falling, so I'm going to begin to advance here. I notice that the Batshot, who is a one-shot, is rotating across. I believe he's going to drive in front of me here, so I'm going to stop, aim in. Sure enough, he does, and we finish him off for our first kill. Now at this point I see that TS5 is isolated. There's a lot of tanks on the other side. I don't know where some of them are, and I do not want to drive into those autoloaders. So I decide I'm going to go after the TS5. Now, it's important to note here, the enemy artillery is currently unspotted. So he may be on this side as well. I'm going to drive through these houses behind this AE Phase 1 to try to get the side of the TS5. I do not want to fight that tank frontally. Not only will I not pen it with my 217mm of pen, but it'll probably rip up my unarmored tank. Let's drive into the side here. He drives across, and we put our first shot into his side. I was hoping to potentially hit the rear track wheel, but I just want to put the shots in, and here I look for a shot into the front track wheel, but you can't actually pen this tank and damage it, so I shoot him in the side there, and I do get the track by shooting through the upper link. There's that artillery, and we're going to finish him off for kill number 2. Now again, I see the 257 is in the corner here, and I'm lightly armored. There's not a lot of cover there. I do not want to drive into him. I see that we have a lot of tanks still alive in the south, and that's where most of the enemy team is. So I decide I'm going to rotate back through the base and go through the tracks to try to take this enemy push from the side. And as you can see, the mobility of this tank is actually pretty darn good when you're driving in a straight line. I would say 55 kilometers per hour is pretty fast for a medium tank. We're outrunning the standard B here, and soon we will be coming in to the side of the enemies. There are 5 tanks left. All these guys are pretty low. The STB, the Batshot are both one-shots, but there goes the STB. I'm going to drive between the tracks here and get behind the Batshot. He's not even looking. I'm looking for the shot. He backs up, and we take our shot for kill number 3. The VK is now at a one-shottable, so I'm going to drive behind him as I wait for the reload. And there's kill number 4. 1 tank left. It is a 257, still fairly healthy. I'm hoping to get another shot here to push my damage total over that 3,000 mark. I was very pleased with this game, especially for a small map. We didn't actually have to brawl with anyone. We're able to flank and put in shots, and you really use the high alpha of this gun to our advantage. So here I find a green pen on his side, and then I just take the shot through this wall. We happen to pen and track him with a side shot, netting us another 446 damage, and there he dies. Just over 4,000 combined, 3,000 dealt. An excellent game for this tank. 1,278 base experience, and we made a profit of 116,000 credits with a premium account. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.